Good morning. How are you all today? Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. Do you want to know how to be invisible? Well, I'm going to talk about that. I was reading an article today, and I forget it. I forget what it was from. I will post the article on. I will post a link to the article on the Patreon channel when I post this up on the Patreon channel. And those of you who are interested, and everybody should be, will read it. It's really it goes into some detail about the abilities of government slash corporate surveillance. It doesn't get near what really is, because if we know it, they're already 10 years ahead. But it's good to keep in mind. Now, some of you may know this. The more paranoid out there will go, "Oh yeah, I know about this." The problem there is that paranoia freezes you. Paranoia keeps you from being able to function in a changing world, and so I don't recommend. I don't think that paranoia is particularly intelligent. Okay, but I do want to talk about how to pretty much make yourself invisible in a world of increasing surveillance. Now, I'm from the old days, and I'm not really a techie. And I'll be honest, I was never interested in being a techie. I remember it was kind of a funny thing. Right after I graduated out of the police academy, a guy who was also from my same department, he graduated number one in the academy. Very smart guy. Very smart, a techie guy, right? Actually, he went on to the CIA, and he was over in my apartment, and he said, "No, we weren't really friends. As a matter of fact, we were so different in things that so I didn't dislike him at all. He's a nice guy. It's just you kind of group up with those who are more like you." And he said, "Everybody says you're a real throwback." And I said, and I thought, "Oh, what? Yeah," he says, "you're a real throwback to the old West type of things." He was right. And the reason that I say that is to illustrate my limitations, not only the limitations of my knowledge, but the limitations of my interest. Really, I've always been more interested in the basics, sometimes to my detriment, because I haven't kept up with the increasing technological advancements that I often warn about the importance of here. Well, that made me think. So I'm putting up that article as I put it on Patreon. As I was reading through it, it reminded me of a conversation that I had with Hondo Bob. And for those of you who are not with us on Patreon, you don't know who Hondo Bob is, so let me tell you. He is a very smart guy. He is one of our top tier commenters, patrons over on the Patreon channel, and Hondo has had both a military and a post-military career that I would only describe as astounding. Okay, if there's anything he doesn't know, I haven't found it yet. He's one of the reasons that I love the Patreon channel so much, because I learn so much, and we have a lot of guys like that, a lot of people over there like that. And Hondo told me, I'm going to tell you something else about Hondo in a minute. And Hondo, we were just discussing at last year's gathering. We were talking about, surveillance and the eye in the sky and everything like that. And he said, because he was involved in that. He said, we're not looking for we weren't looking, they are not looking for the individual insects or snakes in the grass. They are looking for anything. We're watching to see where the grass moves, because that's something that's big enough to make the grass move. Now, I'm paraphrasing that. I'm relaying that according to what I remember on Patreon. Hondo, please correct me if I got some of that wrong, but that's what I took away from it. And so I'm going to get into that. But before I do that, I want to show you one of the most beautiful things that I've seen. Speaking of Hondo Bob, many of you have admired the lanterns that are back there. Hondo made those and sent them to me. And a few days ago, I'm sorry, I've had those for a couple of years, I think. A few days ago, he said, "Hey, I'm sending you something in the mail, and I got it, and I want to show you something." Back up here so you can see it. There you go. Is that not? This comes with kind of a burnished, well, not burnished, but kind of a copper reddish case. And if that isn't the most beautiful thing in the world, then I'll tell you what is the most, well, beauty, right, in the eye of the beholder. And but to me, it certainly is. And I'm sure that your children are more beautiful than this. Uh, the only thing better than that is two of them. I wanted to show. Now, the reason that I'm showing this to those of you who are not with us on Patreon is because something made me very happy. He sent me these. He sent Mark, my buddy Mark, not Mark Harrison on here, but the other Mark. He sent him to as well. That he calls him EMS Mark because Mark's a paramedic. He sent these, and Hondo. First off, thank you so much. And these are going to be a part of our Christmas display on our mantle in our main room at Stonemont this year, and probably every year after that. The thing that I wanted to tell you though that I was so happy about, and don't worry for everybody who's saying, "How do I become invisible?" Well, we're getting to that, and if you don't have the patience to wait for it for a minute, the lesson will be lost on you. He included within this greetings from Carriage House Crafters. Excellent. That's the exciting part. Now, in this, he tells the whole story about the Old North Church and the lanterns and all that. And I memorized the poem "Paul Revere's Ride" back when I was in 4th grade, I think. I can still recite some parts of it. But the important thing was down at the bottom. He says, his thing is, I won't show you all of it. Carriage. Well, I'm not going to show you any of the letter. I will read this on the Patreon channel for our patrons. But Carriage House Crafters, and that makes me happy thinking that because he told me he was trying to figure out supply chain and pricing and everything like this, how he could make these and offer them for sale, and that makes me think that maybe he is getting close to doing that. So. You all, if he's able to do that, I hope, and I'll let everybody know. You should get them. Hondo, thank you. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas. Mark couldn't believe it either. He was over the house yesterday. He opened his, and he couldn't. He was just astounded. And I think he's going to thank you as well in the comment sections on Patreon. Okay, now for those who want to know how to be invisible. Let me give you the bad news first, okay? You can't really become invisible. Okay. Yes, I know. What a disappointment, right? Well, I mean, did you really think you could? No, you can't become invisible. I know that the government and DARPA and all this, they're all working on invisibility cloaks and this and that and the other thing. Well, if they have them, I don't know. Well, okay, I've heard about. Let me say, I've heard that they have them. I can't get one, and neither can you. Okay, so that's the important thing. But the second best thing, what does being invisible mean? And this is very important in the world of increasing surveillance. Now, I have worked, like I said, in surveillance. My first real introduction to the secure state was over in Northern Ireland, and I tell you, you are always under the eye over there. There's more cameras over there than a camera store. Are there still camera stores? And I tell you, when we were driving around, even when we were driving up around the coast, I mean, way in the middle of nowhere, almost always there was a helicopter somewhere up there. We knew that they were following us for reasons that I won't share on here. Okay. We talk about it a little bit on the Patreon channel. Steve, I'll get somebody to say, quit mentioning the Patreon channel. Well, I do it because we put a lot more stuff over there than we do on YouTube. And if you're interested in this stuff, you ought to be there. Links down below. We'd love to have you. It's a great place. Okay. Being invisible simply means that people don't notice you. Okay. You've heard people say, well, I just felt invisible there, or whatever. Well, that's really what it comes down to, is not being noticed. It's the old, I know, and I don't really like this term, because it's the gray man, right? The gray man, that's been big in the preparedness world for years. And everybody in the world who's never really had to do it out here telling you how to be a gray man, okay? Just to go unnoticed. But it's not the way that most people think, okay? Okay, you've got a herd of brown horses, right? You stick a white one in the middle of it. Where's the white horse? There it is, right? You take that horse out and you stick a brown one in there. Where's the brown horse? Well, which brown horse, right? A whole herd of brown horses, none of them noticeable. This is what it comes down to. Now, let me carry this a little bit further, because so many preppers fail to understand this. Take a brown horse and set him out in the middle of a green field. Okay, nice hilly green grass. And he's out there just chomping on his grass. Find the brown horse. There he is. You see, what made that brown horse noticeable is that he wasn't a part of the herd. And here's the lesson that most people haven't gotten. For those people who say, well, I don't want to be involved in the system. Okay. And throughout this whole article was, like I said, it was a pretty good article. It went down every way that they can surveil you and identify you, from government records to biometrics to what you buy at the store, through everything. It covered all of that, and some things that I think that a lot of people don't realize. But let me ask you a question that may surprise some of you. Does it matter? Does it matter? Now, here again, I've just alienated a bunch of people. Said, of course it matters. I want my privacy. I want this. I want that. Yeah, well, so do I. But you know what? That ship has sailed. That is gone. That left you 40 years ago. Okay? So just stomping the little foot and saying, I don't want this. I want my privacy. I have a right to my privacy. Okay. That is an argument that goes into the ethers. It doesn't mean anything because it's not possible anymore. That is not the world you live in. Well, I'm not going to do this. I have people ask me, says, well, can I buy your books another way besides Amazon or through your website, because I don't use credit cards? Why not? I mean, seriously, why not? I don't want them to be able to track me. They can track you no matter what. I used to be in the business of tracking people. Okay, that was before the internet. Really, before we had much use of computers. I'm talking about the 70s and 80s. I could find somebody before lunch. Okay, so it's not that difficult. But if you take yourself out of the ability to function within the greater world, first off, you're hurting yourself. The second thing is, and it kind of goes into this argument that, well, I don't have anything to hide, but why should, and I understand totally this, well, if you don't have anything to hide, why do you care? Yeah, I mean, I know that is a leading question, and a lot of people, hate that. But here's the thing. If you're not involved, if you do not participate in the system, you are that brown horse out in the green field. Let's go rope that horse. Is that what you want? You see, you're standing out. What you want to do is to create a life and a lifestyle and a surveillance profile that looks like everybody else. Simple as that. You don't stand out for anything, which means, like if they're looking for somebody and say that something bad happens, right? And they're looking for a certain profile and they're running all sorts of stuff. And they're saying, here's John Smith. no credit cards on file, doesn't buy anything with credit cards, nothing that we can track. Of course, we have everything that we need on John Smith, but John Smith is sticking up like the nail that hadn't been pounded down. I wonder why. What's he hiding from? What's he afraid of? Okay. You see, that's what happens when a person separates themselves too much. They start to look unique. You don't want to look unique. You want to look so much like everybody else that nobody will ever find you. Now, I'll tell you something else in just a second. Excuse me, I'm still getting over this. I use debit cards and credit cards all over the place for everything. Now, I've always preached cash, right? Do I keep cash? Yes, I do. But do I use it? No. Not usually. What do I care? There are a couple of things that I won't use them for, and I'm not even going to mention them here. Okay. But what they're more convenient. Do I care that Walmart or the government knows that where I buy gas? Do I care about that? No, I don't. Not at all. Because do you think they don't think I need gas? I need gas. Okay. Do I care if they are able to see what I bought at Aldi? Yesterday I bought a steak and some guacamole, chunky. And what else did I buy? A couple of some raspberries for my daughter, something like that. Okay. Do I care that they know that? No, I don't. Why would I care? Why would I care? As a matter of fact, the more that you use those cards, the more of a normal profile you build, which makes you go farther into that herd of brown horses, right? Now, and then some people say, don't use credit cards. Why not? Why not? Well, because the debtor is slave to the lender. I didn't say be in debt. I said use credit cards. You know how much money I make every year off of credit cards? Because I buy a lot. I mean, through the business, through everything, and whatever. I probably get, I don't know, many hundreds, perhaps thousands back. I should figure this up. Thousands back every year in a 5% return off of one particular credit card that I use. Why would I not want that? And the people who follow Dave Ramsey, cut up your credit cards. They're just after you. Okay. Why would I want to give up hundreds or perhaps thousands of dollars a year in money they give me back? But you're paying interest, not if you're paying it back every month. But then they know what you do. So what? I've already covered that. Okay. Here's what you want to do. You want to create the largest normalcy profile you can. That means you want to have it on record that you're doing all the same things that every other normal person does. Because if you don't, you look unusual. You don't want to look unusual. That's the whole gray man concept, right? Although when it comes down to SHTF, I am not a proponent of the gray man concept. You've probably heard me say that. And there's reasons. I'm not going to get into that. But then, here's the thing. Do you have an off-ramp from your normalcy? What if you don't want to be tracked? And for whatever reason, you want to take a walk. And you just don't want them to know that it's you. Do you know how to do that? I'm not going to tell you here. But there are ways. And between a reading and researching and a little bit of imagination, you can figure it out too. Now let me warn you who not to learn from, okay? You know these YouTube channels where somebody comes on and says, CIA guy says such and such, here's how to do this and here's how to do that. You know how many real real CIA people are on YouTube talking about real stuff? There you go. I almost did that, meaning okay, or it means something. Apparently, it means something racist, and I didn't mean that. How about zero? Don't believe this. Or CIA assassin says this. Guys, don't believe that crap. Because that's what it is. It's crap. Nobody who really ever did anything ever comes onto YouTube and tells you about it. Simple as that. You got to figure it out yourself. But what I would suggest is go through this article that I'm putting up on Patreon and go through everything and say, is there a way to kind of massage that, to camouflage it, to make it for me not, for the flags not to go up on me in this situation? And then just think about it and then figure it out. Okay? So here's the thing. You're never going to be invisible in the way that the Invisible Man was invisible, right? But what you want to be is unnoticeable. You know, it's kind of like that thing that was going around for so long. Be ungovernable. You know, yeah, catchphrase, but you know, it didn't really mean anything. Made a great T-shirt, but this does mean something. Be unnoticeable, so that whoever comes along, I don't care whether it's the secret police or the marketing guy from Walmart, he's going to look at you and go, wow, Mr. Normal. Nothing interesting there. Except, what's your opinion on this? What color T-shirt do you think is going to be in this year? And then be willing to answer. Oh, I think such and such and such and such. And don't be worried. I'm not going to say red because then they might identify me as a Trump supporter or something like that. Okay, stop being so paranoid. But do become unnoticeable, because is what makes you invisible. All right. Okay. You guys have a great day. Bob, again, thank you so much for these beautiful, beautiful lanterns. I hope that you are soon to be able to make these available to the public, and anybody who doesn't buy these is nuts and un-American, because after all, the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. Would you like me to recite that for you? I'm not going to. Maybe on the Patreon chat. You have a good day. Become unnoticeable. Live your life to the fullest and prepare. And just like we say, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. That doesn't mean hiding. It doesn't mean being paranoid. It means living your life and preparing and keeping up with, the daily, the monthly, the yearly challenges ahead. All right. You all have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.